The biggest causes of lowered testosterone is chemicals and plastics in the environment. Plastics in your food that you eat, forever chemicals, pesticides, insecticides, herbicides. If you've been exposed to too many chemicals, the cells that make testosterone are going to be affected the most. This is more of a problem than most people realize. I'm going to interview one of the top experts, Dr. Mark Richards, who specializes in testosterone replacement therapy. I've learned some things I've never heard before. When you hear about testosterone replacement therapy, a lot of side effects come up. You research and there's increases in risk for cardiovascular prostate problems. Interesting enough, last week, the FDA just pulled their caution on heart disease and stroke off of testosterone warning label because it was proven that not only was it not true, but actually testosterone therapy done properly greatly reduces risk of heart attack and strokes. Interesting. You have different types of application, right? You have the injection, which you have to get frequently, and then you have pellets and you have creams. Tell me a little bit about each one. What kind of effects would be created one versus another? The method of delivery in testosterone therapy has everything to do with the health benefits that you're going to receive from it. We'll take creams first. They found only 20% of the time did you actually get to a therapeutic range, and then only for a number of hours, not even for a day. When you do an injection, you get a massive spike in testosterone. It causes all the other hormones and things that testosterone makes to get overproduced for a short period of time. The first 36-48 hours, you'll have a massive increase in estrogen. That can make them irritable. That can make them aggressive. Many spouses, if you talk to them, will say they don't like being around their husband when he's injecting testosterone for the first 2 days. In other words, when you inject testosterone, your estrogen increases. 100% of the estrogen in your cells, whether you're a male or female, is made from testosterone. I've gotten some questions like some people want to get injections with testosterone, but then you have to get those every week or even a couple times a week, right? You're constantly going to doctor back and forth. Is that how they do it? Yeah, that's how they do it. It goes up and down and up and down. That's not the way we were designed or any of the animal kingdom was designed. Testosterone is the most abundant active hormone in both men and women. What about the pellets? The pellets have been used in the United States. Let's define pellets. Pellets are compressed, pure testosterone, no coating, about the size of a Tic Tac. Those pellets are placed into the fat through a little poke in the skin with a metal straw. You numb it up with lidocaine so it doesn't hurt. They've been used in the United States since 1940. They are highly effective. They're used both in men and women. I can tell you that 60% of my pellet patients in my practice are female. You dose people with pellets so that their tissue levels, their cellular levels, are at their optimum. You can tell that from the symptom relief that they experience and the disease improvement they experience and the disease prevention they see. There must be some type of slowly dissolving mixture that they have this testosterone in that kind of just gradually goes into the body. Yes, that's a great question, Dr. Berg. From my 17 years of experience in this, it seems to be that the fat cells absorb testosterone and then they release it as your body needs it. If you're going to go to the gym and lift heavy weights 4 to 5 days a week, you may actually use up your pellets faster than if you are very sedentary and sitting in your office and eating M&Ms all day. So you get more of a stable release. It's 100% guaranteed to be released, so you don't have the problems of cream. And it's completely stable, mostly steady state for 4 months in men and 3 months in women. The type of testosterone that you're giving with pellets versus the injections, is that a different type? They use testosterone cypionate usually in injections. It's a compound with the binds testosterone and the enzymes in your muscles. The testosterone pellets is honestly just 100% human testosterone. That's a crystalline white powder that's been compressed. The pellets are just 100% testosterone, right? The injections are a compound and it requires an enzyme in your body to cleave it. And maybe the cypionate really isn't that big of a deal as far as having free cypionate in your body. The real problem is that spike way up and way down is just not good. What material do they get pellet testosterone from? Where does it come from? So testosterone is a very simple compound to create in nature. There's about 6 or 7 steps in a lab, and it converts that ring into testosterone. You know, because when you talk to people that have had the injections, there's complications, right? I mean, with mood and other things, but I haven't heard very many problems with these pellets. That's correct. It's the way your body was designed to have testosterone. I guess the argument is like, why would we even need testosterone in the first place? Why would we need pellets? I mean, it's not natural. I had that very question about 17, 18 years ago when I first started learning about this. And it took me a while to track it down, but the literature is pretty clear. If you look at our levels now in 2025 compared to 1970, our population on average is 60% lower than we were. And the culprit seems to be hormone-disrupting chemicals. When someone goes to a lab and gets their testosterone tested, there's a normal range that you're going to compare it to. On your website, you talk about that might not be the most accurate way to know that you have sufficient testosterone. Well, I already told you we're more than 60% lower than we were in 1970. So when you look at some of these ranges now, you can laugh a bit because some of the ranges, or all the ranges I see from these labs, include levels that are just severely low and linked to double the risk of death over the next 5 years. And in women, we don't even study women in this country with testosterone, even though it's their most abundant bioactive hormone. It's almost impossible to avoid all these endocrine disruptors. You can do good things like eat out of glass containers. You cannot have processed food. Don't use tin cans. Only eat organic foods if you can. Organic meats. But you got to breathe the air. And there's a microscopic plastic that gets absorbed through your lungs in the air on every continent on the planet. It's a losing battle. We can try our best to stay healthy, but eventually the poisons overwhelm us. And if we want to stay healthy, I think we need to use testosterone pellets in most of the population after a certain age. What about women? It would seem like, oh, she's going to get a deep voice, she's going to grow a beard. And is that true? First of all, let's take care of the aggression thing. Estrogen is what causes aggression. If you look at teenage girls and teenage boys, the violence may be different with the boys, but the actual aggression and meanness that comes from estradiol, it's a mama bear, papa bear issue. As far as hair, testosterone does stimulate hair follicle growth. Women genetically don't have beards. They have hair follicles on their chin and lip and other areas. Interestingly enough, 80% of women over 50 have to treat their facial hair somehow with plucking, shaving, waxing, whatever. We've been taught as doctors that menopause was caused by a deficiency of estrogen. And that is not a true story. Menopause is caused by a deficiency of testosterone. And testosterone makes all the estrogen in your cells. Treating a woman with estrogen for menopausal symptoms, as was proven in a big study in 1985, is highly ineffective. I was taught that it's the estrogen that drops down. And they don't really talk about testosterone. It's like, that's over here. That's not for women. But that's the one that turns into estrogen. I didn't know that, so that's fascinating. And then what about some of the benefits for men? It's similar things. People don't realize that menopausal symptoms that we know about in women are the exact same symptoms that men get. Well, except for vaginal dryness. They don't get that. But other than that, they have the same mood disorders, hot flashes, they have night sweats, they have depression. It all gets fixed when you restore them to healthy levels, so their cells have adequate testosterone to run the whole machinery of life. People just feel like, oh, it's going to affect my heart. But I think what you're saying is actually, no, it's going to improve your heart if you have enough testosterone. I think this is a great solution, especially the bioidentical from the wild yams versus the injections. If someone was considering doing this. Yeah, that sums it up. That certainly sums it up. There's this hyper-attention on not just your total testosterone, but your free testosterone. And I know on your website you don't really focus too much on that. Testosterone is what we call actively transported. In other words, if you can imagine a claw on all your cell surfaces, that when it sees testosterone come by on the bloodstream, it grabs onto testosterone and it pulls it into the cell. You also checked the iodine because iodine is kind of a cofactor to help with the absorption, in addition to zinc and probably magnesium, right? Just sort of by accident since 1940, they found that iodine is a cofactor, or let's say the gasoline for that claw that makes it work to grab the testosterone and pull it into the cell. So when your iodine is low, your claw won't work, and your intracellular testosterone level will be low, even if your blood level is high. Amazing information. Of course, RFK, he does the testosterone pellets, right? Yep, that's what he admitted to on video. Yeah. And he's in his 70s, he looks pretty good in shape, so it looks like he's not doing poorly off that. So that's just quite amazing. Yeah, and one thing that you brought up in the beginning, but I didn't address, is this false claim that testosterone causes prostate cancer. We actually found that testosterone causes prostate cancer cells to die. And furthermore, they started doing studies in the lab where you added testosterone to a prostate cancer tissue cell that you're looking at, and the cells die. And this has been pretty much borne out now since about 2008, 2010 by work up at Harvard and other places. Wow, goes completely against mainstream conventional, which I'm not surprised. I'm going to put your link down below. You also wrote a book, so I want to share that with everyone as well. and he has a lot more data on this topic. It's fascinating. So Doc, thank you so much for taking time out to talk to me. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.